Welcome to ClarityLoop. In this video, we'll walk through the competency framework end to end. We'll cover 4 things: how to create a framework quickly, how to structure it into departments, roles, optional tracks, and levels, how to use AI to draft and refine expectations, including benchmarking, without losing control, and how the published framework becomes useful for managers and team members once levels are assigned. Let's jump in. A competency framework is your shared language for growth. It makes expectations clearer, helps coaching stay consistent, and gives people a concrete view of what next level actually means. In the career framework area, you'll typically see a published view, what the organization sees, and a manage view, where you build and iterate. We'll start in manage. When you create a new framework, you can start from a template, generate a draft with AI, or build from scratch. Templates are great when you want a strong baseline immediately. AI draft is useful when you want a structure tailored to your org shape, and Scratch is best when you're recreating something you already have. For this walkthrough, we'll start with a template, so the structure is already complete, and we can focus on how to refine it. Once the framework is created, you'll see it organized from the top down. At the top level are departments, broad functions like engineering, product, sales, and so on. Open a department and add a short overview if you want, just enough context so people understand what that function is responsible for. Inside a department are roles. A role is a career path, like software engineer or product manager. Open a role and you'll see the core building blocks, responsibilities, and competencies. A quick note, you don't have to fill every section on day 1. Some teams start with responsibilities and levels first, then add competencies over time. The framework supports that start simple, improve as you learn approach. Now, tracks are optional. If a role splits into paths, like individual contributor and manager, tracks help you keep expectations clean without duplicating everything. If you don't need that split, you can keep a single ladder of levels under the role. Now let's go to levels, because levels are where the framework becomes most useful in everyday growth conversations. Each level defines what changes as someone grows: scope, autonomy, complexity, and impact. And an important principle here is that expectations can build from the top down. So, role expectations apply across the whole role. If you use tracks, track expectations apply across that path, and level expectations add what's specific to that stage. So, when you look at a level in the full or aggregated view, you're seeing one complete picture, not a scattered set of definitions. That's what you want in a one-on-one: clear expectations in one place. Now let's use AI once, because this is where ClarityLoop can save you a lot of time. Inside roles, tracks, and levels, you can generate or refine responsibilities and competencies. This is useful in 2 moments: when you need a strong first draft, and when your content is mostly right, but you want it clearer, more structured, or consistent. What matters is that it's not a blind overwrite. You get a proposed draft, and you choose what to apply. If it helps, keep it. If it doesn't, discard it and move on. And you can also use AI for benchmarking. For example, you can ask it to draft expectations in the style of common industry frameworks, or to align your wording with a particular function, level of rigor, or company style. It's a helpful way to sanity check whether your ladder feels in line with what teams typically expect at each level, while still keeping it yours. Once you have a few levels in place, it's worth doing a quick progression check. Compare levels side by side and make sure expectations clearly increase with seniority. If the tool offers it, use search and hide common style toggles so you can focus on what actually changes between levels. That's usually where gaps show up. And if you're using tracks, it's worth aligning levels across tracks by sequence. That makes it easier to spot mismatches, like one track's expectations jumping faster than another's at the same level. Now we're ready to publish. Publishing makes this the official version the organization sees. You can keep iterating later, publish updates when you're ready, but publishing is what turns it into a shared source of truth. Now, there's one step that makes the framework immediately useful: assigning levels to people. Without level assignments, the framework is still valuable as a reference, but once levels are assigned, it becomes personal and actionable. You can assign a person's role and level during invite, if you already know it, or you can update it later from their profile page, which is common when you roll out in phases. Once levels are assigned, two things get much better. For team members, the framework becomes a clear growth map. They can find their current level, understand what's expected, and compare it with the next level to see what actually changes. This is especially helpful when someone asks, "What should I focus on to grow?" For managers, the framework becomes a coaching and calibration tool. Instead of giving vague feedback, you can anchor conversations to shared expectations. You can point to responsibilities and competencies, pick one or two areas to develop next, and keep the conversation concrete. And at the team level, once roles and levels are set, you can see how your team maps into the framework. That makes it easier to spot distribution, identify where growth conversations might be timely, and keep leveling standards consistent across the team. At this point, you've got the full loop. Build the framework, refine it, publish it, assign levels, and then use it every week in coaching, goal setting, and leveling conversations. To wrap up, we created a framework using a template, AI draft, or Scratch, structured it into departments, roles, optional tracks, and levels, used AI to draft and refine expectations, including benchmarking with you staying in control, published it as the source of truth, assigned levels so it becomes real in day-to-day work, and saw how both employees and managers use it to make growth clearer and more consistent. Thanks for watching.